Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Well, technically, this actually falls in every single possible future Total War title. Today's topic are the multiplayer campaigns, specifically should the player count be increased or not. So without further ado, let's begin. The online co-op or head-to-head campaign systems are quite a fun experience. Here you can play with a friend and either form a mighty empire together or lay waste to the known world. Or should you so wish, you and a friend may go head to head and see who can form the mightiest empire, or be the most destructive force, all while making sure your rival does not get too powerful. These campaigns themselves are quite fun, especially in Total War Warhammer, as the random element from the AI is removed in favour of a possibly more random element from that of a human player. There is no doubt that these campaigns are rather fun, especially when playing against another person. Since its introduction, many people have been calling for the player cap of 2 players to be increased to 4 players, with the calls by the community being further reinforced with the introduction of 4-player free-for-all battle maps. There are a decent amount of players which would like to have the opportunity to play 2v2 co-ops, or even a 4-player free-for-all head-to-head campaign. I for one understand the reasoning why players do want this, so let's take some time now to look at possible positives and negatives of an increased online campaign capacity. Please bear in mind I'll be referring to Total War Warhammer here purely as an example. But let's not waste any more time and start with the positives. The first obvious point being that you'll be able to play with more friends at the same time. With online campaigns being capped up to 4 players, you'll be able to have very interesting head-to-head campaigns or even co-op campaigns. Groups of players could reenact parts of history, lore and so on. Say, using Total War Warhammer as an example, if you have 4 players playing 2 versus 2 in a head-to-head campaign, you could do something quite thematic. One player could play as the Empire, the other could play as the Dwarfs, and the 2 enemies could possibly be the Chaos Warriors, after their rework of course, and the Warriors of Norsca. You could do a whole end-time scenario, or even replicate one of the invasions from one of the Everchosen. Going off topic just 1 second here, as it's literally just popped into my head, it would be rather interesting if they just removed the whole classification of co-op and head-to-head. Imagine a campaign where you could ally and declare war on the player that you wish, without any restrictions. Now obviously that would be extremely hard to implement, but you know, I can dream, can't I? But moving back to the topic at hand, with more players, the level of randomness and strategy is increased. Let's use a hypothetical here once again in Total War Warhammer. Say there are 3 players playing a free-for-all head-to-head campaign. Player 1 is the Empire, Player 2 is the High Elves, and Player 3 is the Dark Elves. This is purely a hypothetical. Now there are 3 different players controlling 3 different portions of the map. Each player has built their respective empire, but eventually they'll have to strike out at each other. Now who fights first? Does player 1 launch an invasion onto Ulf 1 and risks getting destroyed by player 3 when he's weakened enough? Or would player 3 just simply wait? He or she would allow player 1 and player 2 to beat each other to death at that point and then strike at both when they're both sufficiently weakened. Something like this could add for very interesting events. Going back to the first point, obviously being able to play with more people allows you to experience the game in a new level, especially seeing as Total War campaigns aren't generally that short, so playing with a group of friends at the same time is seen as a favourable thing. We've spoken about the positives, but now we'll have to look towards the negatives. The first point would be time itself. Obviously it's more or less simple to organise a campaign, be it head-to-head or co-op, with another singular player. 2 people can more or less work around their schedule and decide on how much time they can both play and so on, but now imagine adding in a 3rd or 4th player. Now you don't have to cater to just one person but the possibility of 3 other people. Who's to say that everyone can play for over an hour or so on? A lot of factors come into this. Think about it this way, the personal lives of up to 4 people would come into effect. School, work, social lives, anything like that. So that would make it a lot more difficult. But also, not only that, now we move on to our second point. Whilst in game, you could possibly be playing with up to 3 people. That is 3 complete turns that you'll have to wait before you'll get yours. For those of you with experience playing either a head-to-head or a co-op campaign, how many times have you played with or against someone who has taken absolute ages during their turn? Now imagine that turn time being potentially doubled or tripled. From my experience, I've played against some people where early to mid-game, they've taken around 3 to 4 minutes to complete a turn, not including battles of course. And then in later game, if their empire did get decently large enough, they could take up to 7 minutes to actually complete a turn, once again not including battles. Now I'm not including battles into this equation because I quite enjoy watching them, but even then that could be what, 25 minutes on an average turn before you could actually play? So if you have up to 3 players, you'd have to wait more or less around an hour and a half before you could play yourself. I mean, do you really want to be an hour and a half just sitting down watching someone else play, or do you want to play the game yourself? Even with other players taking turns on who controls the enemy army, it still seems like quite a lot of a wait time. You're playing someone else's army, not yours. Moving on, what happens in regards to victory conditions and their implementation? Like in most cases, you'd want to be destroying each other, but what if a player gets completely destroyed? Does the game just drop a player and carry on like if nothing happened? It just seems like it would be a bit difficult to code in. No disrespect to CA here, but it seems a bit too complicated in regards to a campaign mechanic. Sure, that's perfectly fine in terms of FFA and so on, where as soon as a player has been defeated they can easily drop out, especially when we move on to our next point. What about in regards to bugs and synchronization? We've all been there in terms of online gaming, where sometimes we'll have some sort of synchronization issue or bug with our friends. Does that mean now that every player would have to turn off the game and turn it back on again, restart the campaign, or load up the most recent save? Yeah, this is fine when it happens once or maybe twice, but if it happens very often, especially with 4 different internet connections, well, people will start getting rather bored and just log out for the day. It just makes sense. And for our last point, how would this even be developed? How many Charlemagnes would this cost? Something like this would require a massive amount of development time, so if they did decide to actually add this into a new game, well, something would have to be cut, wouldn't it? And to be perfectly honest, I'd rather see new characters, minor features, legendary characters, units, armies, art assets, stuff like that being implemented over this. Sure, they could probably fob this idea off to a Saga game just to test the waters, but I don't know, it just seems like it's even too much of an effort for that. Do I think adding more players to the multiplayer campaign camp is a good idea? Honestly, I like the idea, but I don't think it's very practical or even doable. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various different social media links such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord, where you can get in contact with the Great Book team. Also in the description section below is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Using our special link and also the special code, which is also in the description below, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A special thank you to Ryan Bertsche and Gibraltar LUSC for subscribing to us at our Fame level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule and VSVasan for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you guys enough. The money earned from Patreon is going directly back into the channel, slowly upgrading little bits and bobs, just trying to get to a higher level of content for you guys. And a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. The support has been insane lately and honestly, we can't be more than excited. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.